You have been preaching Christianity on college campuses and answering questions from skeptical undergrads, some of them very hostile, for 45 years. Am I getting your bio correct?
You got it.
Okay. So you have seen this longitudinally over almost 5 decades. What are the changes that you've noticed? And what is your sense of the current state of young people?
The changes are the following. Moral relativism, relativism in general, has a stranglehold now on people the way it never used to. Neil deGrasse Tyson once said, the good thing about science is it's true, whether you believe it or not. Well, guess what, Neil deGrasse Tyson? That's true about all truth. It's true.
That's true.
Whether you believe it or not.
Right.
And yet you and I live in a culture where more and more people say, essentially, everything's relative. It doesn't matter what you believe. And my point is, if someone says that to you, take them seriously. Don't believe what they just said to you. So, unfortunately, that whole idea of relativism, the truth is totally subjective, has a stranglehold on more and more people's lives. So I've watched that trend continue over the past 45 years. Secondly...
Wait, may I substitute?
Yeah.
45 years ago was 1980?
Mm-hmm.
So you're coming out of the 60s and 70s.
Right.
In 1980, I sort of remember 1980. It was a pretty flaky time, actually.
Yep.
The country changed during the 80s, but 1980 was still really the 70s.
Yep.
So you think there was less moral relativism then than there is now?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure of that. But it was not as clearly articulated. It had not been worked through philosophically as deeply as it is today. It was not such a warp and woof of the American mind quite as much. Yes, it definitely was strong. And to watch that simply grow and deepen was frustrating for me to watch.
What is moral relativism?
The idea is basically this, Tucker. Who defines right and wrong? I only know of 4 options. Either the power elite define right and wrong, or the majority define right and wrong, or I define right and wrong, or God does. Now, if the power elite, or the majority, or me defines right and wrong, it is relative. It's just a creation of the human mind. But if there is a God whose mind precedes the human mind, then of course, this mind, this character of God, which is good, can define right and wrong, which turns it into an objective, moral absolute. No God, morality is a crapshoot. Morality is a taste. What do you like, broccoli or spinach? Well, this is my taste. Well, what do you like, loving people or hating people? Well, it's my taste. No, according to Christ and according to the Bible, morality is not just a taste. Instead, human beings really have innate value and dignity, and that is why to dehumanize a person and trivialize a person is really wrong. So moral relativism is tragic. And yet it basically, as you have said so many times on your podcast, basically sin is deifying my opinion, deifying myself, putting myself at the center of the cosmos, which I could not agree with more. And a follower of Christ is someone who's allowing God to be at the center of the universe, and that's what worship is. That's what faith is. Worship is allowing God to drag me out of the center of the universe and allowing God to be the center of the universe, which means all of a sudden morality is not totally relative.
It's interesting. I don't, and I'm not a historian. I'm interested, but I'm not trained as one, so I could be wrong, and I'd welcome any correction. But I don't think before the 20th century there was ever a society civilization at scale formed on the basis of moral relativism. I think every society made the claim that our moral code came from God.
Yep.
Because I don't think, and I'm a Christian, but of course I'm not referring to the Babylonians weren't Christians. Most civilizations have not been Christian. So, but there has to be, at least conceptually, a God behind the moral code, or else it's not really a moral code, it's just a preference.
Exactly.
And so that just, as a practical matter, doesn't work over time, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it is a neat way to justify me doing whatever I want to do. Sexually, morally, in the use of power, I can do whatever I want to do.
Because there are no limits.
Exactly. And I'm the one who defines it. And if I define good a particular way today, but I change my mind tomorrow, there's nothing wrong with it. Because it's all fluid, totally fluid. It's totally arbitrary. It's just a taste. So today my taste is this, tomorrow my taste is different. It's the opposite. It's not right or wrong. It just is. What is. So chill out, Cliff, and just realize it is.
So I think you just explained why, and many books have been written on this, why did the 20th century give rise to totalitarianism in a way that the world really had never seen? Now, the obvious explanation is, well, technology made it possible, okay? But it has always struck me that's an inadequate explanation. It may be that societies at scale, big societies, big civilizations, that don't acknowledge God, inevitably become totalitarian because there are no limits on the behavior of the leaders. There's nothing they can't do.
Absolutely.
That is what you're saying?
Yes. One of my heroes is Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the great Russian novelist.
Amen.
And Alexander Solzhenitsyn, at one point in his life, thought, it's really the rich that have a problem with evil. They're the scumballs. But then he was put in a gulag in Siberia. And he was living among very low-income people. And he was aghast at the immorality, the evil of those people. And suddenly Solzhenitsyn woke up to the fact, quote, the line separating good from evil does not run between parties, classes, and countries. Rather, the line separating good from evil runs through every human heart. And then Solzhenitsyn understood, I need help. I need a savior. And he converted to Christ. That was sheer brilliance on his part. And also real sensitivity, I think, to reality.
Yeah. Well, he learned from what he saw around him, unlike so many of us, right, who don't learn anything. So you think that this is accelerating?
Yes.
And what are the manifestations of it? How do you know that?
Well, obviously, when it comes to the issue of sexuality in our culture, it is tragic, absolutely tragic to watch people say, I don't know whether I'm male or female, but wait a second, I'm the one who defines it. Because everything is relative. So if I want to define myself as an individual or as they and them, that's cool. If I want to be he today, she tomorrow, they the day after tomorrow, that's okay. Because truth is something I create in my head. It's simply my perception. So if my perception today is I'm a he, tomorrow my perception is I'm a she, and the day after tomorrow my perception is I'm a they, that's all equally valid. Because it's all just a cosmic crapshoot. That's all life is. It's ultimately meaningless. Because God didn't create me. No intelligent mind put me here for a purpose. Life is ultimately meaningless. So I'll just create it according to my own desires.
So flesh out why you think that's tragic. I mean, it's self-evidently silly because you wind up making claims that are just counter to observable truth. Like, I can change my sex. No, you can't. It's determined at the DNA level. So like, no, that's untrue. So you could laugh at that. Why do you call it tragic?
I call it tragic because I lose my understanding of why you're valuable. And if you rub me the wrong way, there is nothing that says I can't cut you off at the knees. And the whole idea of forgiving is ridiculous.
Can you stop this? I feel like you're at the heart of something that I don't fully understand, but if you don't mind explaining it a little more fully, why does that statement, I can change my sex because I'm self-created, I'm God of my own life, why does that affect the way that I feel about you or you about me? Why does that make you less valuable or me less valuable?
It doesn't, but it's based on a philosophy. It's based on a worldview. And that worldview says that we all are cosmic accidents, which means we define ourselves, we define our value, we define our morality, we define everything about us.
Right.
Which means I will also define how I'm going to treat you.
Exactly.
And if you rub me the wrong way, and if you cut me off at the knees, I'm coming after you to teach you never to do that to me again. And revenge becomes the modus operandi.
Yes.
I have never, ever heard of a porpoise forgiving a shark for eating his porpoise friend. But we're not porpoises. We're human beings created in the image of God, which means we have this ability to reflect the character of God, which is gracious and forgiving and also just and holy. But he was also forgiving, and he created us with this incredible ability to forgive and to be gracious and not just to cut each other off at the knees.
So if you don't believe that other people have souls, there's really nothing you can't do to them.
Exactly.
Why does it even matter?
Exactly. What's the difference between me stepping on a cockroach and me stepping on you? You're both sentient beings. You both are alive. So if I can step on a cockroach, why can't I step on you? Oh, now you're going to give me this mythology that, oh, but we're human beings and we have more value than a cockroach does. Oh, really? I don't think the cockroach feels that way.
Right. To which you say what?
Down deep, you know better than that. Down deep, you and I don't care what your worldview is, you know that there is something to human value. Down deep within your heart, within the depth of your being, you know that when you hold a little baby in your hands, you're not holding a cockroach.
No.
And this is not based on human arrogance. Oh, I'm just superior to a cockroach. No, this has to do with some innate, intrinsic value of a human life. But if there is no God, this deep, profound experience that you're having as you hold a little baby in your hands is just raw emotionalism. It's meaningless.
And the value, as you just said, is inherent. It's not just utilitarian. It's not that the baby may grow up and become a famous scientist who creates a vaccine to prevent disease.
Yep.
The value is inherent in the baby. Because the baby exists, the baby is valuable because the baby was created by God.
Bingo. You take God out of the picture and you're up a creek without a paddle when it comes to explaining to me why is that baby valuable. Oh, that baby's valuable because I have a lot of strong feelings. Yeah, fine. So that's your genetic drive, right? As mom and dad to care for your child. Well, guess what? I know a lot of deadbeat dads who could give a rip about their kids.
Yeah.
So don't give me this bit that dads have to love their kids. And yet the majority of dads understand that child is valuable. Okay, so now the question is why? Why is that child valuable? And I would argue, if there is no God, that child is a hunk of primordial slime evolved to a higher order. So don't give me this gibberish that this child is valuable. Instead, be intellectually consistent and acknowledge this child is a cosmic accident, the same way I'm a cosmic accident.
That's so interesting. So you really can't say that any child or any person is valuable except for the products he produces or the services he provides.
Bingo.
Unless you acknowledge that he was created by God.
Correct.
Because where would the value come from?
Exactly. And you know where the value comes from in our culture? The size of your stock portfolio, the size of your bank account, the style of your car, the house you live in, the size, the grandeur of it. And that is so superficial. I mean, I was once speaking at a women's private...
Well, can I also say,
yes.
It suggests that if you don't have that portfolio or that car, that you have less value. And
you are a loser.
Right. You're a loser, but you can also be completely mistreated or killed.
Why not?
Well, that's happening in the United States, by the way, to poor people.
Exactly.
And I guess when you frame it the way you did, we shouldn't be surprised by that. 100,000 people can die every year of fentanyl. And I'm like, yeah, but they're losers. Like, whatever, who cares?
Yep.
And that is what we're saying.
Tragic.
Because they don't have value apart from what they produce or own.
Exactly.
Damn, I think you just explained what's happening. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but you're exploding my brain a little bit. Yeah.
I was speaking at a private women's college in Massachusetts, and a woman came up to me with tears streaming down her cheeks. She said, Cliff, you don't know what it's like to walk into a frat party. And as you walk into the door, you walk past a group of guys lined up, and they're whispering to each other. 2, 4,
yep,
8, 10. She said, you have no idea how dehumanizing that is, Cliff. And I had to look her in the face and say, you're right, ma'am, I don't know experientially how dehumanizing that is, but I can begin to imagine. That is such a trashy view of human life. It's scary. But if there is no God, we're all hunks of primordial slime. We're all hunks of meat on a hoof. And if we're proportioned correctly, we're in 6, 8, 10. And if we're not, we're 4 or 2. Tragic.
What did she say?
She began to seriously consider Christ in a way that was very exciting. I don't know what ultimately she decided, but she said to me, Cliff, basically, this is really beginning to make more sense than it ever has before.